Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and boy, I got a spicy topic today. All right, call to Netherdeep. So Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition just announced call to Netherdeep. What is this thing and why is it the meta juice, man? This is so exciting. And the reason why is its impact. The call to Netherdeep has impact on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, on the OSR, on the tabletop role-playing game community overall. There's a lot here. Let's dig in. All right. So let me define, just in case people haven't heard yet, what is the Nether? What is call to Netherdeep? So call to Netherdeep is specifically an adventure set in the world of Exandria. Now, what's Exandria? So Exandria is the world where the Mighty Nine game took place. Okay, so Taldoria is a continent on Exandria, to my knowledge, and then Korhas and Marquette and all these other areas are on Exandria as well. Okay, so I own the Explorer Guide to Exandria, and you'll find content on this channel about Explorer's Guide to Exandria. I'm a big fan. I love the book. I thought it was really fantastic. And it's really special because it is, there's really nothing like Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. Explorer's Guide to the Wildemount, first of all, is the only Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game that has another, oh wait, there's one more, that has the ampersand. So on the side, on the spine of every Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game, 5th edition book, you will find the dragon ampersand. It's their icon. It says, and it's a bold statement. It says, we are Dungeons & Dragons, right? We own it. The name is ours. The game is ours. And while there are a few people out there slapping our name on content that is 100% not Dungeons & Dragons, right? Telling people that they're playing Dungeons & Dragons when they're not and playing other games, right? That ampersand is real. It's official. It's canon. It's like, hey, this is the real deal, right? Like this is Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons now, Dungeons & Dragons forever, right? 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, 5E, right? And if you're playing OSE, you ain't playing Dungeons & Dragons. Step off, right? Like that's what that ampersand means, right? And so here's the kicker, right? The Exandria book, the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, which is really the Exandria setting book, okay, has two icons. It has the ampersand icon, and it has the official stamp, the icon of Critical Role. I think the only other book that does this is literally the worst Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition book ever created, which was Acquisitions Incorporated. So Dungeons & Dragons does have a very official connection to Penny Arcade, and they actually did a book with Penny Arcade. And I think that has the Penny Arcade, it doesn't even have the Penny Arcade icon, but it has like the Acquisitions Incorporated icon, right? So Exandria book is incredibly unique, right? So Explorer's Guide to Wildemount is there, and then you're adding this adventure on. Now, what does this mean? This is big news, right? So we live in such an incredibly strange world, right? So one of the things is the OSR apps generally, at the macro level, generally detests Critical Role. Let me give you some examples. You can go over to OGGM's channel, right? Just click on any video, right? And you got about a 50% chance, I think, of hearing him spit fire at Critical Role for some reason or another, right? He absolutely detests Critical Role, right? And like he's just got scads of content, just lambasting Critical Role for XYZ reason, whatever new reason he can think of today, right? Another one is Tracy Hickman, right? Tracy Hickman recently went on his Twitters and went, ooh, Critical Role, yeah! He got all flustered about it, So OSR generally hates Critical Role. But recently, the OSR realized something, right? The OSR at the macro level, at the 51% level, I think those game masters started to realize, oh, all of our games are incredibly anemic. None of them are ever going to really displace Dungeons & Dragons. We love OSE, but the world really don't care, right? And OSE is never going to displace Dungeons & Dragons. But, or really kick Dungeons & Dragons in the teeth, right? Like really make them stumble, right? Who could do that? Well, guess what? Critical Role. That's what OSR has been thinking. And so the OSR is now actually, I feel like a lot of OSR game masters are actually holding out hope that Critical Role could kick Dungeons and Dragons in the teeth and really make them stumble, right? Not because they like Critical Role, but because they dislike Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition so bad, right? And so this has made these super weird bedfellows, right? Like where OSR is like, ooh, maybe the Critical Role could actually, really just curb stomp, Dungeons and Dragons. We love to see that when that happens, and they'll bring out these ridiculous like, for a brief period, Pathfinder was outselling Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, that's true. It did happen for an incredibly brief period, and they're like, in Japan, Call of Cthulhu is bigger than Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, it is, right? Like in Japan, whatever. Like, if you draw the frame tight enough, you might find some areas where Dungeons and Dragons is absolutely dominating the entire market, right? But so what's really interesting is there was a lot of talk among OSR GMs saying, ooh, Matthew Mercer's going to make his own, Matthew Mercer, king of Critical Role, is going to make his own fantasy game. And when that happens, the Dungeons and Dragons giant will fall, right? And so it's so funny just seeing these people who have just wished on the downfall of Critical Role for so long, now coming around and seeing, oh, well, we have no hope in heck that any of our OSR games are ever going to be even noticed by Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, right? But maybe Critical Role can do what we want to do, right? It's not the group we want to do it, but we hate D&D 5e so much, we'll be happy to see anybody do it, right? And so OSR is coming around and like very weirdly from a very strange angle supporting Critical Role. Well, this dashes all those hopes, right? So actually, the OSR is absolutely right that Critical Role has the power, right? Has the power to really hurt Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so that's real, okay? Now here's the reason why why the OSR is not going to get what it wants, and why Critical Role is actually not a real threat to Dungeons and Dragons. Critical Role, 100%, the OSR is right, has the ability to cause true trouble, right, and really put a stumbling rock in the path of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? The same way Pathfinder did. Pathfinder was a true competitor in like 2010, 2011, 2012, right? It's no longer, that's for sure, right? But and Critical Role could get there, right? But Critical Role is not configured correctly to be a true threat to Dungeons & Dragons. And what do I mean by that? They have all the power they need, right? They have the capability, but they don't have the willingness. And that's the true issue, right? Matthew Mercer, fantastic game master, really good game designer. I think I was blown away by the Explorer's Guide to Wild Mountain. I really liked it, right? But here's the problem. Here's why Critical Role is not a threat. Ain't none of them quit their day jobs, right? The tabletop role-playing game community has said, Critical Role, you are king and queen of the industry, right? We celebrate you as real celebrities. We celebrate you as power players in the industry. And you know what's Critical Role's responsibility in that? It's, we have these marginal careers as voice actors, and even though we could live like kings and queens in your small pond, we would really much prefer to be subpar B-list, B-list Hollywood actors, which is equal to being an A-list voice actor, right? Like, they can't. So Critical Role don't care. They don't really care about Dungeons and Dragons, right? It's literally a side concern. It's a side hustle, right? They will not forget the money, the fame, the prominence, and the of Hollywood voice acting, right? Now, to tell the truth, I don't really think that voice actors are actually true Hollywood actors, right? Maybe Tara Strong approaches that, but none of the Critical Role people have as much talent in their whole body as Tara Strong has in her pinky, right? But so the reality is, that's why Critical Role isn't going to be a real threat. And guess what, right? Call to Netherdeep guarantees, right? Guarantees at least a 2 or 3 year delay to Matthew Mercer ever creating his own tabletop role-playing game to actually go against Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, he's literally, partnered with Dungeons and Dragons. And so and that has just happened again, right? And if that book blows up and does well, right? And actually, I think the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount has already done quite well, right? So the more that Dungeons and Dragons just keeps Matthew Mercer in a box, making source books, they make sure that he's never going to be a threat, right? And actually, it's another layer of protection against him. They don't even really need to put a layer of protection against him, because Hollywood has already got Matthew Mercer wrapped around his little finger. He should have quit the voice acting gig a long time ago and gone pro, right? Gone 100%. I'm in, right? Like D&D is my world, and I think that would have been a much better, because here Matthew Mercer is a king, right? In Hollywood, Matthew Mercer ain't even a stable hand, right? Voice actors, come on, you know, like there ain't no voice. You know, Jennifer Lawrence made $20 million for Passengers. I don't think I'd be surprised if there was a voice actor who made $20 million in their life. Really, you know. So yeah, so that's my take. So I really think the important part of Call to Netherdeep is it pushes out even the possibility that Critical Role will launch their own fantasy tabletop role-playing game out another 2 to 3 years at least, which means that the OSR gets to sob into their pillow again. All that's my opinion. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.